In a dramatic escalation of tensions between North America's largest trading partners, Mexican President Claudia Shinebom's declaration that we will resist until the end has sent shockwaves through Washington. This development signals an imminent economic Cold War between the United States and Mexico. The stakes are high, with last year's trade volume between the nations exceeding $800 billion. Mexico, exporting 80% of its goods to the United States, is wielding this economic interdependence as a weapon. Shinebom's administration has announced plans to suspend economic cooperation agreements along the northern border, potentially impacting U.S. businesses. President Donald Trump's administration has deployed 1,500 additional troops to the Mexican border while threatening new tariffs. The White House demands Mexico address illegal migration and drug trafficking, particularly the fentanyl surge. Shinebom's government has dismissed these accusations as offensive and baseless. Mexico argues that the U.S. must address its domestic drug demand first. The Mexican leader's tough stance has resonated domestically, with many seeing her as a champion of Latin American independence. The day is coming when the Latin world will show its strength, Shinebom declared, a statement pro-Trump politicians view as hostile. This showdown has evolved beyond trade disputes, with Mexico threatening retaliatory tariffs and measures that could impact U.S. automotive, agriculture, and oil industries. The situation has become volatile, with Mexico positioning for broader Latin American leadership. While Trump has delayed new tariffs, core issues remain unresolved. With both leaders playing to domestic audiences and neither backing down, this continental standoff continues. Breaking news: Mexican president's economic ultimatum threatens U.S. supply chains. Good evening, I'm John Davidson. Tonight's top story focuses on escalating tensions between the United States and Mexico, where President Claudia Shinebom's stance could severely impact critical U.S. industries. Mexico could potentially disrupt key American sectors. The automotive industry stands vulnerable, with American manufacturers heavily dependent on Mexican-made components. If Shinebom implements new tariffs or slows cross-border supply chains, it could paralyze production lines nationwide. The agricultural sector faces similar threats. Mexico isn't just a major supplier of produce and meat. They control crucial labor force. Restricting seasonal worker programs could trigger widespread labor shortages across U.S. farmlands. The energy sector situation is equally concerning. Mexico's potential manipulation of crude oil exports could impact U.S. refineries. Despite not being an OPEC member, Mexico reducing oil flow under domestic consumption priorities could increase American gasoline prices. Geography plays a crucial role. Thousands of trucks with valuable cargo could sit idle at border crossings. Shinebom's administration hints at implementing fine-grained controls at customs, potentially creating devastating effects throughout the U.S. retail sector. These dependencies can't be quickly resolved. As one Mexican official stated, the Americans will have to spend years shifting elsewhere, and until then, we will drive a hard bargain. The USMCA trade agreement could become another weapon in Mexico's arsenal. Shinebom's threat to enforce strict domestic production requirements could force American manufacturers into an expensive corner with few immediate solutions. For continuing coverage of this developing situation, stay tuned. I'm John Davidson, and we'll be right back after these messages. In a dramatic escalation of U.S.-Mexico tensions, President Claudia Shinebom's stance against U.S. policies threatens to reshape the economic landscape of America's southern border states. Mexican dignity cannot be dictated from across borders, declared Shinebom in a speech that's sending shockwaves through Washington. Mexico's new leader is backing her words with action, wielding economic leverage against the United States. The implications for American businesses are severe. Border states sharing economic systems with Mexico could face unprecedented disruption. We could block trade and transit points, Shinebom warned, causing concern among U.S. business leaders. Political analysts suggest this could be a move to undermine Trump's support base. The timing is crucial, with border state economies facing potential slowdown as election season approaches. Shinebom could use the divisions in U.S. politics to make a big move on Trump, noted a news outlet. The conflict extends beyond immigration. Mexico's oil and gas reserves, profitable for U.S. companies, are under scrutiny. Shinebom's administration plans to reduce foreign companies' control of energy resources, marking these as national security concerns. While polls show domestic support for Shinebom's stance, Mexican border businesses express anxiety about economic fallout. Washington senators are threatening counteractions, including tariffs and sanctions. This mirrors similar economic standoffs in other regions, like the northern Black Sea region, where economic warfare has become a diplomatic tool. The Trump administration faces a challenge: maintaining border policies while preventing economic damage to supporter states. It's not about military escalation, but economic and diplomatic confrontation. For Americans in border states, the stakes are high. Local businesses warn of losses if Mexican exports face blockades or new taxes. Both sides show little sign of backing down. In a dramatic escalation of tensions between the United States and Mexico, President Claudia Shinebom's defiant stance against U.S. border policies is creating unprecedented ripples across North America. This could significantly impact the 2024 U.S. election cycle, particularly for Donald Trump's campaign. "Mexico is not America's border guard," declared Shinebom in a fiery address that's reverberating through international media. This statement marks a significant departure from decades of U.S.-Mexico relations, suggesting a new era in Latin American politics. Political analysts are drawing parallels to how the Russia-West situation has reshaped global alliances. Mexico's strengthening position could similarly alter the Western Hemisphere's power dynamics. Trade between the U.S. and Mexico, valued at over $750 billion annually, faces serious disruption. Border states could see devastating economic impacts if Shinebom follows through with threatened retaliatory measures. "We're witnessing the emergence of a new Latin American bloc," says Dr. James Martinez from Georgetown University. Shinebom's strategy of rallying regional support against perceived U.S. imperialism is gaining traction. The White House maintains that border security is non-negotiable, while Mexican officials emphasize their sovereignty. This standoff has created an unprecedented diplomatic crisis. Key Republican senators warn about the costs of alienating Mexico. "We can't afford to lose this strategic partnership," stated Senator Johnson. Trump's base appears divided, with some supporting aggressive measures while others fear economic repercussions. Shinebom's popularity at home continues to surge, fueled by nationalist sentiment and anti-U.S. rhetoric. Her stance on migrant rights and border sovereignty has struck a chord with Mexican voters. Without significant diplomatic intervention, this situation could evolve into an economic Cold War in North America. The crisis highlights a broader shift in global power dynamics, where traditional power structures are being challenged. Good evening, viewers. Tonight's top story focuses on the escalating tensions between the United States and Mexico, as both nations head toward an unprecedented diplomatic crisis. President Trump's statement that Mexico has made a cruel decision against the U.S. marks the beginning of a struggle between these neighboring nations. Mexican President Claudia Shinebom's defiant stance has created a political standoff reverberating throughout Latin America. The White House is considering retaliatory measures, including tax packages, a border blockade, and aid suspension to Mexico. These actions could trigger a trade war, potentially devastating both economies. Shinebom's speech, emphasizing Latin American solidarity and resistance to foreign interference and arbitrary tariffs, has gained support from Venezuelan and Cuban politicians, suggesting a possible regional alliance against U.S. policies. The populist approach of both leaders has painted them into a corner. Trump positions himself as defending America, while Shinebom rallies her base with promises to protect Mexican sovereignty. Neither can back down without appearing weak. Key issues include energy interests, drug cartels, immigration policies, and trade disputes. The economic interdependence makes this situation precarious. Mexico's automotive and agricultural sectors rely on U.S. trade, while many U.S. industries depend on Mexican partnerships. This confrontation resembles similar regional tensions like those between Russia and its former partners, where economic ties become weaponized in political disputes. Will Mexico's tough stance force Trump to reconsider, or will U.S. retaliation compel Shinebom to yield? The answer could reshape Latin American politics for years. For continuous updates on this developing story, subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts below. This is your trusted news source, keeping you informed.